Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about some building tips and tricks that I found while building in The Sims 4. Of course, I am not a professional Sims builder and I do not know everything, so if you find something I've missed, please leave it in the comments. I would love to hear your suggestions, but these are just some things that have really helped me when I first was figuring out how to build. So hopefully you can find something helpful in this video. I'm going to go ahead and open my game and get started. So the first thing we are going to talk about is a cheat called Move Objects, and Move Objects is super helpful because it lets you place anything on the lot pretty much anywhere. So that includes items intersecting. So for example, we're just going to take a pre-made bedroom. I'm going to show you how this cheat works really quick if you don't know, but you'll notice there's that little infuriating gap between the bed and the wall, and you can't get too close to the wall because you can't intersect. So basically this cheat overrides that. I'm going to show you how to open the cheat box and type it in. It's really simple. Just press Ctrl-Shift-C. You'll open a cheat box, type in testing cheats on. You'll pop up with this dialog that says cheats are enabled, and then you're going to type in bb.moveObjects, and moveObjects is the actual cheat, so it will let you place anything anywhere, which is super helpful. You can press Ctrl-Shift-C to get rid of that cheat box when you are done typing in your cheats. So yeah, you can see that I can scoot the bed as close to the wall as I want with no problems, which is super helpful. I can do the same thing with the dresser or the lamp or anything in this room. So now while we are on the topic of building cheats, I'm just going to go over a couple hotkeys that are really helpful. So for example, this one is just really simple. You can press the delete button on your keyboard to get rid of a room or a roof or a house, whatever you want. Keep in mind that is the delete key and not the backspace. If you want to get rid of that grid on the lot, you can press G. That will toggle the grid on and off. Another really helpful hotkey is to access the wall building tool, so just press B on your keyboard to filter through all those catalogs and just get straight to the walls. You can also hold Shift while you are drawing a wall to make a room, and you can press and hold Control to get rid of walls while you draw them. And of course, there are tons of other hotkeys that are useful for interior decorating and such, but I'm focusing on the ones that are good for the exterior. So for example, you can press K and you'll get access to a sledgehammer tool, which will also allow you to delete walls and decks and that sort of thing. There's also tons of build tools up in the top bar that also list hotkeys, so like the eyedropper and the design tool. You can also move the lot by pressing Y, and you can move the entire lot around wherever you want to place it. That's Y on your keyboard. You can also go up and down stories by pressing the page up and page down button on your keyboard. You can see there are buttons in the top right, but I find it's a lot easier to have a keyboard shortcut for that. Also, you can cut away the walls using End. I know on a Mac it's Home and End right next to the page up and page down. That will allow you to cut away the walls and such. But I think that's all the cheats and hotkeys that are useful in this area of build mode. I'm going to switch over to building a shell, and I'll kind of walk you through that as well. So we're going to start working on our shell, which, if you don't know, a shell is basically just the exterior walls of the house. It's really simple, it's not that hard to do, and most people in most build tutorials will just tell you to build a fancy box, which is pretty much the easiest thing to do, especially when you're first starting to build. Just build a box and add bump outs. I normally do these 2 bump outs in the front if I am going to be making a pretty typical suburban home. Just those 2 bump outs in the front, 1 in the back, just kind of make it look a little bit more fancy. You can see I've created some inner walls. I just go ahead and delete those when I'm done messing with the shell. So that's pretty much the shell. You're going to want to make sure that the original box stays the same. So you see how it's 5 tiles wide there and 5 tiles wide there? You're going to want to keep that the same width because it's definitely a lot easier to roof if you keep it that way. Now I'm just going to go in and add some porches, going to figure out where I put my door. Obviously I'm putting the porch right in front of where I want the door. I'm still going to mess with the shell a little bit. It's always okay to continue messing with your shell until you have a shape that feels right for you. And makes it easier to roof. Speaking of roofs, we are going to go right ahead and talk about that. So there are three main types of roofs. There's the gabled roof, which has that more A type figure. It's definitely, I feel like, the easiest to use. There's this hipped roof, which has a more pyramid shape. And there's this half gabled roof, which is a half of a gabled roof. So we're going to go ahead and delete that and start with our gabled roofs. So what I like to do is place it on the widest part of the house, and that just makes it so you kind of have a base for your roofing. That's definitely the easiest for me, is to have this one long part that I can kind of connect all my other parts to. I'm just going to go ahead and do these bump outs, gonna kind of mess with the slope a little bit. I'm going to kind of figure this out. So you see how these look a little bit strange just next to each other. What I like to do is drag it over a little bit just so it looks more cohesive. I'm again adjusting the roof slope so it connects correctly and just looks a little bit better. I'm copying it so I have the same roof slope, and yeah, that's pretty much how you do a gabled roof. I'm gonna add a little porch roof back here. Again, still messing with the shell, so this is a little bit easier for me. Add a quick porch roof using a half gabled roof. I don't think I need one for the front because it's not as big as the back. So yeah, that's how you do a gabled roof. I'm going to show you how to use a hipped roof. Just going to delete that real quick. Hipped roofs are a little bit more typical in Mediterranean style houses. I'm going to go ahead and place one down. You can see you can adjust the slope as high or low as you want. Normally I like to do a little lower, and I bring the overhang out because by default this roof does not have an overhang. And I just kind of make sure they intersect. And you're going to want to think about it as if you were roofing in real life. You don't want any weird gaps because realistically the rain would run down and not be good for the roof of your house. So I'm just going to continue messing with it a little bit. I'm dragging this over so I can have it over the little back porch there. And yeah, that's how you do hipped roofs. You just want to make sure they're kind of all connected. And it definitely does give the house a very different look to it. This type of roof can definitely be used on a lot of different style of houses. You can also add gabled roofs to kind of bump out areas to make it look a little bit more fancy. So for example, I'm just going to add a gabled roof, kind of fit it into place, adjust the slope so it matches. And that will make your house look just a little bit fancier. There's a weird roofing glitch where the textures don't quite line up. Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can really do about it. But yeah, that's how that works. You can definitely add those everywhere to make the hipped roofs look a little bit fancier. And that's it for hipped roofs. So we're going to move on to half gabled roofs now. I'm going to quickly delete these hipped roofs and work on the half gabled roofs. These are for more typically modern houses. This shape of house is not really what you would call a modern house. So I'm just going to kind of show you different ways you can use these gabled roofs. They are a little bit harder to use because you definitely have to mess with them a little bit more. You have to make them line up a little bit more. It's really hard to use them sometimes. You can see that looks a little bit strange. So, just adjust the slope and things like that. There's definitely things you can do using half walls and half gabled roofs that do look good together. You can see I'm just going to try and see if I can make anything work here. I don't think I will be able to, but yeah, you kind of get that half gabled roofs are a little bit harder to work with. I'm just going to try one last time. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to put it down, use the slope. I'm going to take away the one side by holding shift, so that way you can only do one side at a time, because most of the time it will do both sides at a time. So I just hold shift to get one side at a time to not overhang. And I'm going to quickly adjust the slope using Alt on my keyboard, because that will allow it to go up but not in those levels. It'll just allow you to kind of alt place the height of the roof, which is really helpful for roofs like this. As you can see, I've kind of got a general roofing vibe going on. It does end up looking a little bit weird because it's obviously this house is not meant to have a modern roof on it, but you can just kind of see there are different ways to work this half-gabled roof. Of course, I'm adjusting the shell a little bit, but you know, it's definitely a harder roof to pull off, at least for me. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and just bring us back to our original gabled roof, because that was, I feel like, the style that I was going for in this video. Alright, so I've gone ahead and painted the roof and added some trim. I've painted the walls, added a foundation, done some flooring. So we can go ahead and talk about door and window placement. Most of the time I use either one of these 3 doors. I'm going to choose this one with the window in the front. Just going to kind of pop it in the middle of my porch here. That's going to be our front door. For windows, most of the time I use this almost secure safety window. I'm going to be using the white and black swatch just because the roof is black with white trim, so I feel like it might be nice to have it match a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. There are really 2 window heights you can choose to make your windows go on. There's that taller one and then there's that lower one. Most of the time I go for the lower one because I feel like it's a little bit more realistic. Also, you do want to make sure that your windows are at the same height pretty much all the way around. And if you are making a more typical suburban starter home, or you have just started building recently, I think it's just a lot easier and makes the build look a lot more cohesive if you use the same exact window variant on all the sides. So there are the windows placed. I'm going to go ahead and copy this door, place it in the back porch over here, just so it looks nice. Going to add some columns to make sure the roof looks like it's being held up correctly. I'm going to make sure that all the windows are pretty much the same windows. Of course, you can use different types of windows on the same house. I just feel like it, again, makes it look a little bit more cohesive when you use the same type of windows. And I'm still going to adjust the roof and stuff a little bit more. I definitely like to mess with the shell and the roof quite a bit, even when I'm done. I'm just going to see maybe some flower boxes look nice. You can see I'm kind of freely placing those flower boxes off the grid, and what I mean by that is I'm not placing them so they're snapping to anything. I'm holding Alt to do that, so I'm just going to kind of see how those look. I don't really normally use flower boxes, and I don't really like the way those look, so I'm going to just quickly undo that. So yeah, you're going to also, just one last thing on window placement, you're going to want to make sure the windows that you place are generally the same height on the same wall. So for example, you wouldn't want to have this window and also have this window on the same wall, just because it does look a little bit strange. So you could also have something like that, but you know, I generally like to keep the same window height and the same type of window on one wall. You know what, I think I'm going to just quickly add another roof piece really quick, because that door place, something seems a little bit off about it, so I'm just going to kind of add a little roof piece to the front, maybe have it overhang on the porch a little bit. Just gonna kind of fix that a little bit. This is called a half-hipped roof. I'm just going to slide it into scale. I'm going to slide it over here, add the overhang, and yeah, I'm just going to quickly copy the texture, add some trim, and add another column, and yeah, I think that is the shell of this house done. And I think I'll conclude the video right here, so please stay tuned for part 2, which will be landscaping, and part 3, which is interior design. Hopefully you found something helpful in this video. If you have any other building tips and tricks, leave them in the comments. Please give this video a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.